Welcome back to my channel, The Movie Optimist, where I find the silver linings and even the worst of films. Today, I just want to talk about something that isn't movies, but TV rather, and it's something I came onto really late in the game, and that is Severance. I am not sugarcoating this here when I say this is the best television I've seen in years. Years. It is the best show I have seen in a very long time. When season 2 was into episode 2, I heard a bunch of guys talking about it at work. It kind of became like that water cooler show where a bunch of people I work with would like gather around in the break room and talk about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I had some FOMO. I wanted to see what I was missing out on, so I went home and I watched the first 2 episodes of Severance. And then I binge watched the last 7 or 8 episodes of it the next day after work. It was that good, that compelling, that I had to just finish it as fast as possible and catch up to everybody else so I could talk to everybody at work about it. Well, last night I had the absolute privilege of watching the season finale of season 2. And after watching it, that is when I firmly cemented myself in the camp of this is the greatest show on television of the last maybe decade. For those of you who don't know, Severance is a show starring Adam Scott where essentially they create this program called the Severed Floor at this company called Lumen, where they install this chip into your mind, and when you go to work and you enter the building, your brain shifts and you forget everything about not being at work. Your existence outside of work is a different version of your brain that you have no contact with. So you become this other version of you that only knows life inside of your job. So you sit down at your desk job, you do your job, you make friends with everyone at work, you eat your lunch, you have your time there, and then the second you leave and you clock out, your brain switches to that other version of you, and then that version of you goes off and does your home life, and you go home and you hang out with your friends that are in the real world, and you watch TV and you spend time with your significant other, but you don't remember anything about your time at work. You're subconsciously not there. So there's essentially 2 of you that exists in the same body. And that concept alone was enough for me to be like, yeah, I want to watch this because that's genius. I don't absolutely hate my job, but if I could spend most of my day, my current conscious version of myself, not at work and send another version of me to work where I don't have to think about that, who doesn't want to do that? My whole life would be literally me just doing these videos, going to the movies, playing video games, hanging out with my friends, making movies, hanging out with my dog, and then when I had to be responsible, I just turned that part of my brain off, send my other guy into work, and I never even realize it. I'm just constantly living life, having a good time. And that is so compelling to me because who wouldn't want that? At least in terms of people that have a normal 9-to-5 that isn't something you love. I'm sure there are people that got their dream job that love going to work. So this isn't for you. But for the regular average person that is just going to work, doing their 9-to-5 at a job they don't necessarily care about, who wouldn't want to sign up for that program? So I watched it, but it doesn't stop there. The show also delves into a lot of really deep, meaningful, thought-provoking questions. Like there's a character that had a really, really, really bad life before he worked at Lumen and did the whole severed process where he hurt people. And he found God eventually after finding the love of his life and learned through the church of Lumen, they have their own church in this show, that just because one version of you is bad doesn't mean there can't be another version of you that's good that will get accepted into heaven. They pretty much tell them that like, look, your Audi, and your Audi is the version of you that's outside of work, has a separate soul from the version of you inside of work. And if the version of you inside of work is good, then that soul will get to go up to heaven and the Audi versions will go to hell. So they join Lumen, and there's a lot of really heady questions about that. And like, can one body under this procedure truly have 2 souls? There's also a lot of questions about this other version of you that goes to work. It's you, but it's essentially not you because it's its own person with its own thoughts and wants and dreams. And whereas in the version of you outside may be in love with your wife, you may like to go rock climbing and play video games, the version of you at work, because essentially their first day there is like the first day they're born, they form their own loves and interests, and they could fall in love with somebody else in that office, and they can get their own hobbies that they like to do within their job. And it's a totally contrasting person from the outside version of you. And that's one of the big points in this show, is that Adam Scott's character, his wife is presumed dead in the first season and getting in a car crash, but he learns at the end of season 1 that his wife is still alive and she's working at Lumen. And the entirety of season 2 is essentially the Audi version of Adam Scott wants his innie version to go in and save her, but the innie version of him is like, well, I'm not you, and I don't know who that person is that you're claiming is our wife. I don't love her. I love somebody else at my job. I don't want to do that. And they both start fighting with each other, but they're the same person, and it's really philosophical, and it's really trippy, and if you're not paying attention, it can get a little convoluted, but what this show does and why it works so well is it takes this incredible concept and puts a science fiction spin around it, because at the end of the day, that's when science fiction is at its best. It's when it's taking real world problems and putting a fun laser sword spin on it, so that it's enjoyable to watch, but you're learning something. It's teaching you a lesson. And that to me here is kind of what Severance has done. It's taken this insanely compelling concept and put a science fiction spin on it. And then it also puts a murder mystery spin on it. And then it also makes you fall in love with both versions of Adam Scott's character, both the outie and innie. You get to spend enough time with the version of him outside of work that you really care about him and his sister and wanting him to find his wife Gemma, which they introduce in an episode that you get to spend entirely with them in season 2 and see their love blossom. So at the end of the episode, you're like, God, I really want the innie version of him to save this girl because I really like this Gemma girl. But then they also do this other really compelling thing where they make the innie version of him fall in love with a coworker, and you're now invested in their love story. And now, kind of like at the end of the movie Warrior with Tom Hardy, where both brothers have to fight and you don't know which one you want to win. In this, it's like, I don't know who I want to succeed at the end of the day. I want the outie version of Adam to be with his wife again, but I also want this innie version of him to get to be with the girl that he loves. They've made both of the subconscious versions of him really compelling, and it's pulling me in two different directions, and that is the best form of entertainment, where you struggle to figure out what you want because everything they provided you is so compelling. And there's more than just the main character. There's another character, Dylan, that's at work that learns that his outie is kind of like this loser and his wife has fallen out of love with him, but the wife often visits Dylan at work, hanging out with her husband's innie, and she winds up falling in love with the innie that's way cooler and way more romantic than the outie version. And there's that wedge now between the innie and outie version of Dylan, who they now hate each other, but they're still the same person. And then there's John Turturro, who falls in love with Christopher Walken's character, and you learn that Christopher Walken has a dark past outside of Lumen, but inside of Lumen, he's a really sweet guy. And then there's Mr. Milchek, who is the boss, essentially, of the floor. He's the floor manager, and he's in control of everything, and this guy is sick in the head, and I absolutely love him. He's actually in the new Mission Impossible, and I am so excited to see what he's doing in that. He is definitely the greatest antagonist of television in the last 10 years, at least in the top 3 of them. I, for one, cannot wait to see what happens in season 3, because for those of you that watched it, what is the plan? Essentially, at the end of the last episode, the outie version of Adam convinces the innie version to save Gemma, his wife, from one of the floors there, and in doing so, he gets her out. But at the last second, before he walks out of the building and turns back into Outie Mark, he decides to turn around and spend the last couple moments he has with the person inside of Lumen that he loves. But I'm not going to go through everything. If you've seen it, you know that the entire place of Lumen is in chaos right now. There's no way they could just live out their lives there. So it really is a testament of true love, and just he wants to spend, even if it's only for 10 more minutes, that 10 minutes with the person he loves, rather than go outside and be with this person, Gemma, that he's never met before. And it really is so beautiful that in the face of danger, they're still willing to just sacrifice it all to just spend one more moment with each other, and it's a testament to true love, and it's so good. It is so amazing. I cannot wait to see where they go with season 3. Everything ends up in the air. You don't know what's going to happen to Adam. You don't know what's going to happen to Dylan. It seems like Dylan and Mr. Milchek are about to throw down in a battle to the death. There's murder in this season finale. There's heartbreak. There's intrigue. There's mystery. It takes everything that makes cinema good and compiles it into this TV show, and it makes complete sense why this is Apple's #1 streaming show of all time.
Who's gonna step up when it happens to us?
Now. Because it is one of the greatest TV shows of all time. And if you are not watching it, I'm sorry for spoiling it for you. I don't know why you watch this video. It's in the description that there's spoilers. But if you're not watching it, I implore you to watch this. You will not be disappointed. It's simply the best. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you watch this show? If not, have I given you a reason to watch it? I hope I have. And if you haven't watched it again, I'm sorry for spoiling it for you, but I did give a warning and you're still here. So let's talk about it in the comments down below. And as always, guys, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, Marcus.
Wait!
My name is Miss Huang. It's my first day here as deputy manager. Mark W.
Why are you a child?
Because of when I was born.